So there are numerous cases in science that show that between 10% and 100% of certain studies that are placebo-based triple-blind studies, people heal by thought alone all the time. So here's the question. Do you need the inert substance to do the healing? Or if you understand the science and mechanics of how placebo works, can you teach people, instead of putting their faith and belief in some exogenous substance, something outside of them, like a pill, something known, can you begin to put your faith and belief in yourself and begin to select an unknown in the quantum field, a new possibility that already exists, and do the exact same thing you did with the placebo, but believe in a future and allow your body to begin to respond to a new mind? And the answer to the question is yes, because we've measured it enough times in our studies with the brain. So that's point number one. The second point that I think to heal by thought alone, we have to demystify the process. So let's answer the question on two levels, okay? Let's answer it in terms of the placebo, and then let's answer it in terms of what we can teach people in order to do that, okay? So if you think about the placebo, how is it that you can give someone a sugar pill, a saline injection, or perform some false surgery or treatment? And a certain percentage of those people will accept, believe, and surrender to the thought that they're getting the real substance or treatment. Without any analysis, they begin to program their autonomic nervous system to make their own pharmacy of chemicals that matches the exact chemical or treatment they think they're getting. Now, was it the inert substance, the placebo, that was doing the healing? Or was it the thought that was doing the healing? People only accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts that are equal to their emotional state. They'll never accept, believe, and surrender to any other thoughts that are not equal to their emotional state. So if you get a diagnosis and the first emotion you feel after the diagnosis is fear or sadness, you can think positively all you want. With 5%, now this is science, 5% of your conscious mind.
Let's have a small pause here. In the next point, Dr. Joe will talk about our subconscious and behaviors and also our habits. Listen carefully, this is very important.
But who you are by the time you're 35 years old is a subconscious program of beliefs, perceptions, attitudes, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, and behaviors. So then the person gets the diagnosis, they're feeling fear, thoughts are the language of the brain, feelings are the language of the body. They're thinking positively with the 5% of their conscious mind, but they're feeling fear. And they could do that all they want, but it's never going to get beyond their analytical mind and begin to have an effect on the body. So mind and body are working in opposition. That means also then that if you can change a person's emotional state to gratitude, to inspiration, to hope, to love, that means that they'll accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to that emotional state, and they'll begin to program their autonomic nervous system into a different pharmacy of chemicals. Now, let's just make this very clear now.
Another quick pause here. During the next 3 minutes, Dr. Joe will talk about very interesting and important thing, which is the placebo studies and research. Make sure to focus because it's very, very important.
In placebo studies, 81% of people who have depression, if they're in a placebo study, and 81% of those people who are taking the placebo actually respond as well to the placebo as they would to an antidepressant. 81%, that's a pretty high study. What that means is they're making their own pharmacy of antidepressants right within. The nervous system is the greatest pharmacist in the world. So what's the relevance, the significance of that? The significance is really simple. When people begin to change their emotional state, they begin to alter who they are. It may take more than one attempt at this, because in that placebo study, they took the placebo for 6 to 8 weeks. Now the pill represented the possibility of them getting well, their thought. When they start looking forward to or anticipating getting better and they feel inspired, when you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you're moving into a new state of being. Now the brain and body are no longer living in the past. The brain and body are living in the future, in the present moment, and they're beginning to produce substantial neurological, biological, and genetic changes in the body. But the placebo study for depression, that person took the pill for 6 to 8 weeks, which means you may actually have to change your state of being for 6 to 8 weeks before you begin to see the change. So I don't want this to be a panacea where you do it once and you're better. Our students have healed themselves of very significant, very almost predestined genetic conditions that medical science had no solution for. Not just one student with one condition, but other students with the same condition. Now we're seeing a trend. But it took them, some of those people, 2 years to do it by thought alone. So they wanted it more than their sleep. They wanted it more than their pain. They wanted it more than their social interactions or social engagements. They wanted it more than breakfast. To them, it was the most important thing. So every single day, they took the placebo by thought alone. And by doing that, over time, they were able to turn the battleship around. We have people in our work that have been physically abused as children. We have people that have been violently or sexually abused as young adults. We have people who have experienced traumas in their lives, shocking events that have branded them neurologically and emotionally. We have people that have reached such a low level of emotional state that it requires more attention and more effort. But so there are too many variables. You have a person's attention span, how long they actually put aside for their day to change, their skill set in which they're able to do it, what their past is, whether they can actually control their mind. So there's a lot of variables. But we're seeing now a community of people that are able to begin to do this in a more consistent level. So it's difficult for us to say what the exact time frame will be because your personality creates your personal reality, right? And your personality is made of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So when a person begins to change their thoughts, change their behaviors, and change their emotions, the more they go back to the same thoughts, the same behaviors, and the same emotions, the more they return back to their same personality. So we know that when we get people to retreat from their lives for a period of time and forget about their life, their personal reality, they're able to produce more significant changes. So I don't think there's a direct correlation between time and change. So it takes developing the skill. It takes the science of understanding how it works. It takes changing a belief or perception that you have about yourself and your life. And it's going to take you feeling a little bit uncomfortable in the process of doing it. But to heal by thought alone means that you have to get to the point where you literally are thought alone. That's when you begin to see the significant changes. I believe that when you change your energy, you change your life. Now, let's demystify that process. Because for the most part, your brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a record of the past. It's an artifact of everything you've learned and experienced to date. Feelings and emotions are the end product of past experiences, and you can remember experiences better because you can remember how they feel. So if you're feeling the same way every single day, that really means nothing new is happening in your life. And if those feelings are driving certain thoughts, and emotions are a record of the past, then most people are thinking in the past. So their biology then literally is rooted in the past. So you can't create a new future if your brain and body are living in the past. So then most people define themselves as a narrative or a story based on the past. Hey, I'm this person, I've done these things, I live in this place, I live in these places, I've owned these things, I know these people. Then you say, oh, well, I know those people, I've been to those places, I've done those things. And when you have a similar experience, you share similar emotions. And if you share similar emotions, emotions are energy. So then we begin to create energetic bonds with things and people in our life. And the problem is that 70% of the time, most people are living by the hormones of stress. Stress is when your brain and body is not that balanced. The emotions of stress are anger, aggression, frustration, hatred, judgment, envy, jealousy, fear, anxiety, worry, depression, guilt, shame, unworthiness, hopelessness. They're all created by the hormones of stress.